Today is February 10th, and today's devotions explore authenticity, rest, and mental focus. How being fully yourself allows life to evolve, how rest can either restore or enable avoidance, and how controlling thoughts has been taught very differently across spiritual traditions. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Candy. I'm a hypnotherapist who's deconstructing from evangelical Christianity, and I know how mindset shapes our behavior. So, in this series, I'm going to share my daily reflections from 3 different devotionals. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and that one's a little more spiritual, non-religious. Also, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, which is a very modern Christian approach. And My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which is a very classic Christian angle. My goal is to help you see how each one of these devotionals or these day books might shape your mindset a little differently. And if you're into that kind of reflection, please like and follow for more. Let's get started. Today is February 10th, and the quote from the Book of Awakening is, "Aside from the feeling of integrity or satisfaction that comes over me when I can fully be myself, I am finding that being who I am, not hiding any of myself, is a necessary threshold that I must meet or my life will not evolve." This one I thought was really, because in it we think about just being ourselves. Sometimes we feel like if we're to totally be ourselves, people won't like us or we'll get rejected. And I have had those experiences. As I become more authentic, I have lost relationships because either I set a boundary and I enforce that boundary. It's not cruel, but there's things that, when you're in a relationship that's not balanced, um, you have to set some boundaries so that you don't continually drain yourself and actually ruin the relationship by becoming resentful because you're exhausting yourself you're not replenishing when you need to. And it can just feel like some relationships are take, 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 take. So then in those relationships, you set a boundary as to how much you're willing to give. You make a decision that makes me more, I'm really expressing myself without being rude, without being unkind. You don't need to be unkind. You could be honest and you could be loving at the same time, and being true to yourself, like not ignoring how you feel about something and just saying yes to something that really you want to say no to. And that when you start doing this, your life begins to evolve. You're on a new trajectory because you're being intentional about how you spend your time and your energy and where that goes. And that is true. When you veil that, people don't know who you are really. And your life doesn't evolve, or it goes in a direction that you are not wanting to go in, and you end up frustrated with life. I think the happiest times I am is when I'm fully myself and I allow myself to be myself, even when it's uncomfortable. And learning more and more how to do that, it makes life actually really exciting and fulfilling. So that's the message from the Book of Awakening today. And in Jesus Calling, the quotes, there's 2 quotes actually. First one is, "Spend ample time with me," aka Jesus, "pushing back the demands of the day." And also, "Refuse to feel guilty about something that is so pleasing to me, Jesus." And it's basically like, spend your quiet time with Jesus. Ample means a lot of time with Jesus. And don't feel guilty about it. Now, this can be used as a way of escaping real matters in real life. I could see someone who's really zealous saying, like, I can't deal with the everyday tasks of life. Like, I've heard of men saying, I'm not called to that kind of work, menial work, helping with the kids, helping with the chores around the house. I'm not called to that. I got to spend time with Jesus. And people could use, the story of Mary and Martha, where Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, and Martha wanted Mary to help her because Martha was busy in the kitchen getting everything ready for them to eat. And I'm sure they all enjoyed the meal that she prepared. And Mary, Jesus said, I'm not going to take away she's chosen a good thing, and I'm not taking it away from her. And I think more what that story could be about is just like when we get caught up in, like, we have to make the meal. Like, I'm sure everybody did enjoy the meal, but maybe Martha didn't have to do it. Maybe she could have just sat there too if she wanted to, instead of doing it resentfully. She didn't have to do it resentfully if she didn't want to do it, but she probably felt like she had to. And maybe they could have all made the meal afterwards together. I don't know. But there are day-to-day things that it's part of getting it done. And I could see this being abused easily. Just like even actually the Book of Awakening, someone could say, I'm being myself and being mean, but that's not really who you are at the core. You're not mean at the very core of who you're. When you came into the planet as a little baby, you didn't come in mean. You learned mean behavior. So that's not you. That's not the fullness of you. So just like everything, things can be seen from different angles. And in the Jesus Calling, you can see that spending time, I would say not with Jesus, but spending time like refreshing yourself on your own, doing something you love, spending time journaling or meditating or all of those things, that's great. And actually, you should not feel guilty about that. But if that takes over and everybody else is doing the work and you're not, and then you're benefiting from that, maybe you need to reconsider. And I can see it can be abused. And it was easy to neglect that when you're busy with children. So taking that time for yourself, not necessarily for Jesus, but for yourself, I can see that being something that you would need to be reminded to do. Take time for yourself and don't feel guilty about it, because you need that. It refreshes your soul. And in my utmost for his highest, the quote today is, the real test of spiritual focus is being able to bring your thoughts and imagination under control. And I remember this kind of teaching in Christianity, take every thought captive. And where I have learned you cannot control every thought that comes into your head, you can control what you do with that thought. You can control and pay attention whether you're going to give into it, entertain it, or if you're going to pay attention to how it makes you feel physically. You're going to listen to your body when it has a thought, when your mind has a thought, because the thoughts do affect how they have emotions attached to them. So I think it is a spiritual practice to begin to pay attention to your thoughts and use your imagination to intentionally create. I think that is part of a spiritual awakening, but I know that's not how Oswald Chambers is using it. He is talking about taking every thought and then refocusing on God. So constantly going back to thinking about God. And what exactly are you supposed to think about concerning God? I don't know. It could be anything. And once again, it's based on your view of Jesus, and that view of Jesus is based on what you've been taught, where you grew up, what religion you're in, what version of Christianity, if you're in Christianity, which most likely you are if you're thinking of Jesus. So once again, this one is just escape, erase yourself, focus on God, and that's all that matters in life. And I lived it, and it didn't bring what it promised. So that's all those 3 books today. Take what resonates and forget the rest. Have a great day. Remember, you get to decide what you devote your thinking to today. You might not be able to control every thought that comes in, but you can definitely decide what you entertain. And whether it comes from something I've said today or something completely different, choose wisely and set an intention that truly benefits you and those around you. And if you found any value here today, don't forget to like and follow. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and let's keep our minds on what helps us love ourselves and each other a little bit better every day.